Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another gameplay impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at Everybody's Gone to the Rapture for the PlayStation 4. This title was sent to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. And I kind of find that it is a little bit difficult to do a video of gameplay impressions on a title like this because there's not that many gameplay elements. Now this game, for those of you who aren't aware, is very much in line with games like Gone Home, Dear Esther, or in my case, which is the only other game like this that I've played previously, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Now, these games are essentially, you're playing in first person and you're running around in this environment that the developers created for you. In this case, we're running around in the city of Jotun. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, which is, as far as I'm aware, a fictional location because I actually Googled it and I couldn't get any results apart from results related to the game. As you walk around through this town, you'll notice that there is nobody here. Now, I'm going to try and avoid spoilers as much as necessary, as much as possible, I mean, because obviously I know that the players that want to experience this even, wow, words today, there's something going wrong with me, will want to get as much of a fresh experience as possible. But essentially, there was an event taking place. There were a bunch of scientists, from what I could gather, from what I've played so far. I haven't finished the game yet. I should mention that. There were a bunch of scientists who were studying this event that was taking place, and something went terribly wrong, and now everybody's gone. So as you are going through the game, you are essentially trying to find out what happened to these people. And the way this works is, as you navigate through the level, you will find these balls of light. And these balls of light will unfold events that took place, and you'll be able to witness conversations between different characters in this, I wouldn't even call it a city. Earlier I called it a city. This is more like a village almost, the village of Jotun. You will be able to see the interactions that some of these characters had with each other. And this will reveal to you clues about their past and what had happened here. And it actually gets somewhat interesting, but I always have a hard time going through these games because a lot of the time is just you're moving forward. I mean, I actually had a point in the game where I was happy if I would get to a house and the doors wouldn't open because I'm like, okay, I don't have to explore this one, because you guys know that I have that completionist thing. So every time that I would see an open door, I would want to go in and check everything out. But how exactly does this work? Well, when you find the balls of light, sometimes you will have to tilt your controller. And when you tilt your controller, you will witness a certain event. Other times, the event might just be taking place, which means, I'm assuming, it means it's not one of the main events, because it is fairly easy for you to miss some of these events as you are moving about through the level. Now, from a visual standpoint, the game actually looks really good. But the problem I have with it is that you only witness these characters as manifestations of light. You don't actually see any of the characters, at least up until the point where I've played, and I believe I'm like 3 to 4 hours into the game. However, I did spend quite a bunch of time actually going into houses that I probably didn't need to, and looking up every little nook and cranny to see if I could find as much information as possible about what happened in the city of Jotun that led to everybody vanishing. And there are quite a lot of things that you discover, and again, it's hard for me to talk about them because I'm not exactly sure what will reveal itself to be a spoiler for some people. So I'm going to focus just a little bit now on a couple of more nuanced mechanics of the game, and then I will actually tell you guys a little bit about my interpretation of the story so far, so that those of you that want to avoid knowing anything at all about the story, you can avoid so, and those of you that don't really mind, you will be able to hear my interpretation of it. So the gameplay is fairly simple. You're walking around, you're finding these balls of light, like I mentioned previously, and you're able to watch the interactions of these characters. Beyond that, you'll be able to find radios. And these radios are usually transmitting some kind of a sequence of numbers, and when you actually interact with the radios, you hear a message from one of the scientists, which, reveals a little bit more about what was taking place. And, she gives you a little bit more details about the experiments they were doing and all that. So that is one thing, the radio. Then there's also phones, which give you emergency broadcasts, because obviously there were emergency broadcasts considering that there's nobody here and obviously some kind of apocalyptic event took place. So those are two things that you're able to interact with beyond the beings that are the balls of light that I mentioned previously. You're able to go inside a lot of the houses, and a lot of times you will witness these, I don't want to call them cutscenes. Again, it's these interactions between characters that are revealed to you through these manifestations of light, where you will be able to hear a dialogue between two characters in the world. But it is very easy for you to lose track of the characters unless you're really good at identifying voices, because a lot of the times I'd be like, who the hell is Wendy? Who the hell is Steve, or whatever. It actually takes you a while for you to recognize, okay, this guy is Steve, this is Wendy, this is, what was the name of the other one? I forget the name of one of the main scientists, whatever. And yeah, those are essentially the mechanics. You're just walking around, nothing super amazingly, mind-blowing event takes place, at least not up until the point where I've played like 3 to 4 hours in. At some point when you're about to reach, how should I put this? I wouldn't say the end of a chapter, but when you're about to reach a little bit of a more important exposition point, the screen will go dark and you will see some lights that will kind of show you the way, and it will move you forward to the next point of the story. Now, you're able to go back and forth anywhere in the world whenever you want, but I don't believe you're able to view events that you've already seen. So it's like, once you've seen an event takes place, that's as much as you're going to be seeing about that specific event. And this is about as much as I can say without going into details of my interpretations of the story. So if you like these kinds of games where your objective is to just, go out through the level and investigate and try to find out what's happening by interacting with items and listening to dialogue and whatnot, and then, reach some sort of a conclusion on what's happening, then you're probably going to enjoy Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. My main complaint is that I would actually like to see the other characters. Maybe in Ethereal, it kind of bothers me that you actually don't see any player models at all. And another thing that I would like to say before I move on to the story stuff is I think this game would be a much better experience in VR. I'm not sure if this game is VR supported or not. I'm not sure what their plans are in terms of that stuff, because I haven't really done any research about the VR possibilities of this. But I think that is where this game would really shine. I think because a lot of people think that, first-person action shooters and whatnot are actually the best situations for VR. I think that those are definitely valid games, but I think that these more relaxed games will give an interesting experience, maybe even to non-gamers, which is why I think that Everybody's Gone to the Rapture would be a very interesting thing from a VR standpoint, because you're actually experiencing the world. And like I said, the graphics look beautiful. The world is very detailed and rich and colorful, and I like it. I like the graphics of this game a whole lot, which is what actually made the experience, more bearable for me personally, because like I mentioned, these are not the kind of games that I am usually that attracted or gravitate towards to. Having said that, there's a lot of stuff that you might miss if you just, if you stay on the main path. Like I said, there's a lot of houses that are off the beaten path and that you will be able to enter and maybe get some kind of a radio message or a telephone message or something along those lines, as well as some of those character interactions. So if you're just sticking to the main road and wanting to get through the story, you will be missing on a lot of side content, so to speak. And I think that most of the players that will be playing this game, they already know what they're getting into, and they probably will want to fully explore the world. Another thing that I would like to have, I feel, is I would like to have some kind of a sprint button, because a lot of times, I will go into a house, I will have seen what is in that house, and then I will take some kind of a path, and I will end up running around and ending up in the same place. And it is very frustrating for me to know that, okay, I've already seen that house, so the next place I need to go to is over there, yonder, and it's so far away that I just have to, keep the left stick pressed forward and just, wait for, I don't know, a minute or something, just of me walking, because the character really does move really slow. But anyway, That was pretty much, most of the gameplay mechanics that I have seen so far. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what this game is about and whether or not you like it, together with the footage that you have seen up until this point in the video. So now I'm going to actually go into my interpretation of the story. So if you want to be completely fresh in terms of what this game is about, you might want to leave the video at this point. Although I should tell you that even though I have my own interpretation of the story, I'm not sure if that is right. And I don't feel it really reveals that much. But again, you've been warned. So from this point onward, let's talk story. So from what I can tell, some kind of experiment, either they were experimenting on something or something was taking place and they were analyzing this event. And at some point they messed up. And when they messed up, what ended up happening is people started having nosebleeds and headaches, right? That's pretty much what I got. You will find a lot of tissues with blood on them spread throughout the game. And you will find a lot of characters complaining, oh my god, I have a really bad headache. I mean characters, I mean these manifestations of light. You'll find a lot of them complaining about their headaches and how stuff is going really bad for them. Eventually I found this car, which apparently was from a doctor because he had a cell phone, and I listened to the message on his cell phone, and he was talking about how he felt like what he had was like if he had a brain tumor, which was expanding way more rapidly than any other tumor could possibly ever expand. And the bleeding that was coming out through his nose and through his coughing and whatnot, that bleeding had like clots of something he could only explain as liquid light. So essentially it's almost like this light that was the catalyst for this event was invading people's brains and causing them to bleed out and die. Although as you go through the level, you never really see a corpse. Everybody is just gone. And the only thing left are their manifestations of light and these little balls of light that guide you forward. Now, when you get to the first section of Jotun, there's actually a little text that pops up on screen which says Jeremy. Now, as far as I could tell, Jeremy is the pastor of this town. So he's like the priest of the church and all that. And if you follow this little ball of light around the town, it will kind of lead you to the main events where Jeremy was present. And you will see Jeremy interacting with several of the townsfolk, trying to help them out with their headaches and whatnot. And you will learn a lot more about the lore of these people. Then eventually you will go into a scene where you can see that Jeremy is just like super disappointed in God, and he's just like, why would you do this? And just like going completely insane. And eventually the animation that you see for these characters, it's almost like they dissipate into light. And then you find another character, which is Wendy, and you follow her ball of light around, and it tells you the story of Wendy, who is this old lady who is trying to find her son. Her son being Stephen, who, as far as I could tell, is one of the scientists who is somewhat responsible for what is happening. Then you also find out that at some point the government just tried to either nuke this place or destroy it somehow, because they just wanted to contain the threat of these lights to not be able to leave Jotun. And this is my interpretation of the story so far. On the last section of the game that I've played, I was following around this character named Frank and his interactions with all of the other characters. He talks with one of the scientist ladies, and basically that's all I've gotten out of it. Like I said, this is an interesting game if you like that kind of exposure and that kind of just like exploring and figuring out what took place here by listening to these manifestations of light that used to be the people that lived in this city, talking with each other and finding items. Like you'll actually find pamphlets that will say, warning, this zone is quarantined. They actually believed that what was happening here was some kind of flu. They thought there was some kind of a strain of the influenza virus that was making people sick, when in fact it was actually these light things that essentially killed everyone. Again, I don't know if they were killed or if they, went to a better place. I don't know exactly what happened. You're able to interact with gates. I guess I should have mentioned this previously, but I kind of feel that, like, just interacting with gates, going inside houses, those two go kind of hand in hand. And yeah, it is very much like that. It's about figuring out what happened in this village by following around these light balls and taking witness to all of these events. The voice acting feels very nice, actually. These are from what I can tell, these were all British actors due to the British accent that everybody has in this game. They all do a good job of portraying what their characters were feeling at that time. Like, I feel the voice acting is really nice. The other thing I also thought was that the soundtrack, even though the tunes that they use in the soundtrack don't really speak that much to me, I feel like they are very well employed when they actually use these tunes. Because, you know, usually something important happens and they will have like a specific music for that, and usually it's like you know, classical vocals and stuff like that, and it really does keep you immersed into the game. But again, it's one of those games that if you're the kind of person who likes, you know, more Twitch games, more action games, this isn't for you. This is for people who enjoy a different kind of game, like exploring and figuring out stuff. You know, like I mentioned, Vanishing of Ethan Carter. It reminds me a lot of that game. Even though that game had, you know, a couple of things that I thought were more impressive, like the one part where they put you in the rocket and they send you towards the moon. I thought that was very creative, and I haven't seen anything like that in this game. They're trying to like stay a lot more grounded and not going that far into sci-fi, but you know, as grounded as you can be when you're following around balls of light that apparently created some kind of apocalyptic event that nobody can really explain. But again, you know, I think that by now in the video, after watching the gameplay and my description of my gameplay experience so far, you should have a pretty good idea of what this game is about, as well as whether or not the story interests you. And I really don't want to make this video any longer than this, because I feel like the more I keep on going about it, the more of the story I will spoil, and I want to avoid that. So yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. If you like these kind of games, you'll know that this game is for you, and you're probably going to enjoy it a great deal. Like I said, I still think that the graphics are breathtaking. The game is beautiful. But, you know, apart from that, it's really up to you. If you like different kinds of games, this might not be for you. It is definitely not the kind of game that I personally would, you know, devote large amounts of hours to. But that's just my personal taste. Different people, different tastes. As per usual, leave me your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.